What's the first thing you do on a Sunday morning? Morning and welcome to another Gribbly's Folly Sunday Antisocial. That time each week when I smoke my pipe and complain about humanity while answering its questions. And this week there has been a very big scandal on the Gribbly's Folly channel. Things are the people are roiled. The media is outraged that I said that I like Wild Turkey 101 while also saying that I'm not a big fan of rye. Well, let me tell you, I was just making use of my wry sense of humor. So we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that in today's questions. Derek Tant specifically came after me. He fired back about the Wild Turkey comment, as did several others. Thank you, fact checkers of the internet. I swear, I'm like, yeah, I don't really like rye, but I like Wild Turkey, and like everybody on the internet is like, what's the rye and Wild Turkey mash bill? Oh, yeah, that's how that happened. So, what else has happened this week? I did some good fly tying last night. That was fun. Went up and met with my guru, my fly fishing guru, and Shovel and Shane, and we tied a few flies. Went on a huge hike today. Actually, this is not Sunday morning. It's Saturday night. I'm pre-recording. I drink my bourbon on Saturday nights. Well, actually, sometimes I do drink bourbon on Sunday mornings, but only in church. So, John Galdieri has a female viewer in his household named Cassidy Rose, and female viewers always get their questions moved to the front of the line. All you have to do, if you want to ask me a question, is use the hashtag AskGribbs, and female querents, questioners, interrogators, people with a question who are female, they go to the front of the line. Cassidy Rose asked Gribbs, what are the most important things to put in a plastic bin for when the power goes out for an extended period of time? John Galdieri adds a note, we lose power a lot because we live in the woods. I am smoking my Missouri Meerschaum stubby, and in it is some Cornell and Deal's Dark Fired Kentucky, which is growing on me. I like it. It's very spicy compared to Old Dark Fired, but I'm seeing that it is that might not be a bad thing, right? It might be just like the Wild Turkey, like that amount of rye might be perfect. Anyway, Cassidy, let me answer your question after I relight. It's funny you should bring it up because I've been thinking a lot. You know, last week I did my 10 items to take into the woods as a VR to 907 Piper, and I've been working on some bag dump gear lists, meaning my ready bag that I carry in the back of my car and my adventure bag. What kind of gear do I carry with me? So this is at root a gear question, and I can tell you exactly what, well, I was going to open up the list. Hang on one second. I have on my Google Drive a detailed list of the things that we keep in our Power Out kit. Power Out kilt is a whole different thing. It's a whole different thing. I've got one kilt set aside that I wear when the power goes out. All right, so this is in no particular order. Actually, I think this is in no particular order. A staple gun in Staples. You never know when you're going to have to defend your home with a staple gun. But more importantly, why is the power out? Is the power out because of a weather event? And if it is it likely that you have experienced some high winds and that you have holes in your house? That is the thing that concerns me. So I keep a staple gun in Staples in my power out kit, in my kilt. There's a lot of room in that kilt, man, along with some duct tape and some plastic sheeting, like some basic 0.7 mil plastic sheeting, so that if a tree branch comes through my window, after I clear it, I can just staple it up. So that is, if you got a situation, if the power is out, it's usually because something else has gone wrong. So that I would keep around, some basic emergency home repair stuff. Heaters, you can't really put this in a plastic bin, but I got a kerosene heater right here that, of course, I would move up to the house if we were in a power out situation in the wintertime. Have yet to have to do that, but that doesn't really fit in the bin, but you get the idea. You really should have a backup heat source around, and, of course, the fuel for it. So heaters and kerosene. A lantern. A lantern is a good idea. You can get by with just flashlights, and of course flashlights are another item on the list. In our power out kilt, again, in the kilt, we have 5 flashlights, and these are the $3 Amazon special flashlights that are incredibly bright and take 1 AA battery, and we'll get to why that's important. Flashlights, and we have 2 lanterns, 5 flashlights, 2 lanterns, and that way everybody in the house has a flashlight on them. We've got a couple extra flashlights, and then we have the lanterns for sort of area lighting. An alcohol stove and alcohol will heat up a can of soup mighty fine, even without electricity. We do have some glow sticks because they're cheap and they're cool. Let's face it, glow sticks are cool. If you're out in the woods, they're a terrible idea because the amount of light for the weight that a glow stick takes up is not that much. So it's better just to have another flashlight. But glow sticks they're a good way to mark things. They're a good way. For example, I used to keep a glow stick keep one in the power out kit, because you open up the kit, you just break the glow stick, and now you can see what's in the kit. Parachute cord or any kind of cordage rope for, again, the same reasons why you might need the staple gun and plastic sheeting. Lighters and matches. This is assuming you have a lot of candles in your house. My wife likes candles. We have a lot. So if you don't have any candles, then you might want to put some candles in the bin. Although, again, it's hard to go wrong with the flashlight technology of the day and the lantern technology of the day. And so the last item to really discuss is the batteries themselves. And I have, my list says that our full reserve of batteries is a gross 144 batteries, and they're all AA batteries. So it's important to standardize on one type of battery so that you can stock up, because over time, of course, the batteries end up costing more than the things that you use to make light or whatever you're doing. I would also add some sort of battery-powered radio so that you can hear news about what's going on in the world. If you got the scratch, solar chargers for your cell phones. Although, again, if the power's out, maybe the internet is out as well. But always good to be able to make a call, I suppose. I don't have solar chargers for my cell phones. I do have extra batteries for my cell phones, but they're not in the bin. They're not in the bin. They're in different places. Anyway, standardizing batteries. And the last thing I need to say about this is that I bought Maxell batteries for a long time. You can get them in the big 48 count boxes. But I started having a lot of problems with those arriving corroded. Like when Amazon shipped them to me, they were corroded. So I'm now using Energizers, which are more expensive, but they're not corroded. And I actually, in my work, I use those batteries in my equipment, and I lost some pieces of equipment because the batteries ate it. Basically, the corrosion batteries popped in the anyway. So batteries are very important. I'm sure you can find a more comprehensive list elsewhere, but that is what we keep in our power out kit. Now, that is specifically just to deal with the power being out, not food or anything like that. So we have other stores. We have other things to cook on our alcohol stove or whatever. But that is that's the bin. That's what's in the bin. Thank you all for your kind words about my health. I'm mostly over the cold, as you can hear. It's still there a little bit, but I'm feeling a lot better. Went on a huge hike today, as I said, and life is better. My wife is still sick. Kiddo is fine. He's on antibiotics. My wife is still sick, so I'm a little worried about that. I think she's probably got a sinus infection going on, and she's going to go to the doctor first thing Monday morning if I have to drag her there myself. Boardwalk Piper ACNJ says Europe is much more worried than we should. This is about the U.S. getting out of the nuclear treaty with Russia. Europe is more worried than we are. That treaty limited Russia's land-based program. Those rockets only have a range of 3,500 miles. Europe is threatened, not us. I'm pretty sure they can launch those missiles from submarines, like cruise missiles, basically. I think everybody's threatened. Everybody should be worried about that. Ask Gribbs from Ryan S. Which box of Typing Pipers Pop-Tarts did you devour first? Box A, B, C, or D, and why? Choose wisely. I hear there is at least a 12% rye mash bill in 3 of those boxes. Yeah, I went with D. I don't know why, but I was it was just kind of like, basically the box was here, and I'm thinking A, B, C, D, right? D was closest to my right hand. Over a Pipe says, wait, what does he say? I feel as though you should have had a 4th hat for the 4th Indiana Jones movie. There was no 4th Indiana Jones movie. I don't know what you people are thinking. If you feel like there was a 4th Indiana Jones movie out there, you are living in an alternate reality. Contemplative Piper wanted to know the brand of this hat. And by the way, this is probably my least favorite, I think, because it's the most subtle. It's the least ostentatious. It's also black. But this is a Scala, 4 Seasons Felt Classic Dorfman Pacific. Whatever that means. It had a really colorful feather in the band that I yanked out of there the same way I yanked out all the color and joy from my soul. While we're on the topic of nuclear holocaust, Norbo says, talking about Reagan's joke in '86 that he was going to bomb Russia, I remember this vividly because I read it on my radio program, Ask Ribs. Didn't anyone ever tell you about it? Of course. Wikipedia told me about it right after you posted it. No, I knew about it. I also knew about Able Archer 83, and then there was one other thing. Who was the guy? There was like some Russian dude where one of the Russian missile early warning systems malfunctioned and said that there were like five ICBMs inbound, and he said, well, that's ridiculous because they would be launching 500, and so he chose not to alert his superiors, thereby averting World War III. Norbo says, on that topic, always remember that the communists were more responsible with nuclear weapons than the capitalists. I don't know if that's true. Tsar Bomba? Really? I don't know if that's true, Norbo. I think that the Soviets had plenty of their own problems with nuclear technology. Maybe not limited to weapons, but certainly Chernobyl was a bigger deal than about anything else until Fukushima. And even then, Chernobyl I think remains the worst nuclear accident in history. Although if we're going to limit it to weapons, we lost a few. There's one off the shore of North Carolina. I think a plane went down with one that was like one step away from being armed or something like that, also in North Carolina. The Bikini Atoll. We had our issues. We certainly did. But I think maybe the Russians, maybe they had more space in which to safely test their nuclear weapons because Stalin had already killed everyone that lived there. Typing Piper asks Gribbs, why do people argue about how Chris McCandless died? He was the guy from Into the Wild. He wanted to live in the woods. He went out there and he died. Apparently there's 2 theories. One, he died of damn starvation, which is, it's what happens when you try to go out in the woods by yourself. And but people argue about what exactly caused the starvation, and there could have been a fungus or an amino acid or something like that. I don't know why people argue about that, because they want to think that it wouldn't happen to them, but it would happen to you. People like pioneers and frontiers, men and women, they survived in the woods because they had communities. The human race, human beings are not meant to survive alone. We are meant to survive in families and villages, not just by ourselves. That's ridiculous. I don't know. I don't really know anything about McCandless. Except that I think, man, it's really sad that he committed suicide that way because he should have been able to see that coming. Contemplative Piper asks, do you have a vegetable garden? No. No, because like I just said, man is meant to survive in a community. And communities, they work on division of labor, right? So I need other people to grow my food while I do this, right? This is my contribution to the community. Speaking of very, very necessary food, Contemplative Piper also asks, obviously brown sugar Pop-Tarts reign king over the other Pop-Tarts. Of course they do. But are there any other worthy characters in the Pop-Tart world? Yes. I would say that I have never met a Pop-Tart that I wouldn't eat. I mean, if there was like a licorice Pop-Tart, I probably wouldn't eat it. I think, though, that the worthiest, of course, other than brown sugar Pop, I mean, we're not even gonna, I mean, I don't want to commit heresy here, but a distant second, strawberry. Contemplative Piper asks a third question, what is your favorite pocket knife? And I can answer that by showing it to you. It is the CRKT Squid. And it's got a little bit of lint there on the blade because the blade is sticky, probably from, I don't know, something that I had to chip off the floor after my kids spilled it. So this knife, I've only been carrying about a year, maybe a little bit longer than that. Or before that, I carried a CRKT M16Z, which is a big pointy-ass knife with a serrated blade. And I carried that knife for a long time, like more than a decade. And it felt very weird to change away from it. However, I felt like my needs had changed. I needed something smaller, right? This is a fairly small knife. I didn't like something quite so pointy. This has more of a sheep's foot blade. It's a full straight edge as opposed to half serrated like the M16 was. This one is not flashy at all. I added the paracord lanyard just so I can get a better grip on it and swing it around like nunchucks. At some point, I did a whole video on my knives, and you can go back and watch that, or let me know, and I'd love to do another one. I love talking about knives. You guys have been great with the prepper survival gear questions lately. So yeah, but this has been my favorite pocket knife. I genuinely think that this one is the best. I wouldn't try to baton a piece of wood with it because I did that, and now there's a little bit of play. But it's like a less than sub $20. Sub $20. So a pocket knife should be cheap because you lose them. Although I never lose them because I buy cheap knives. If I bought an expensive one, I would definitely lose it. While I'm complaining about humanity, one of my most enduring videos is my rant about the poor ham radio operators. The jargon for them is called is lids. Lids on 7200. And I'm still getting so that okay, for those of you who don't know, 7200 is a frequency. Ham radio is a hobby in which men and women talk over the radio using various modes of radio communication, and there is an expectation that we will be civil to each other. Like just nice. You're supposed to be nice to each other. And I was recalling in this video, I was recalling the sort of the ethical codes of conduct that I remembered as a young man watching my dad do it. And there's this one place on the dial. There's a couple places actually where people are not nice. They're not nice. They go out of their way to offend people. So I made a video complaining about that. And I'm still getting people commenting on that video calling me a dick. Excuse me, Cassidy Rose. You might want to leave the room for this next part. So some jerk face comments and says, the pipe makes you look like a dick. What an insightful comment. And so, of course, channeling Winston Churchill here, who I said, well, I can choose a different pipe. Can you choose a different personality? And Jerkface responds, call sign? No way in hell, buddy, am I going to give you my call sign. No way in hell. I don't know. I don't think these people watch the Sunday Antisocials, but listen, dick ass, I'm not going to give you any sort of identifying information when you're clearly like arguing in bad faith. Why am I even spending my time talking about how you're still being an asshole? Asshole. Cherry on top has an excellent question. Ask Gribbs, with around 72% of active duty military. Well, yeah, that would make sense. With around 72% of active duty military being millennials, how come boomers only seem to talk trash about millennials and never mention the fact that as a generation, they've spent their entire adult lives at war? It's 2019, which means that probably by the end of the year, there will be 18-year-olds serving in Afghanistan and Iraq and wherever else that were not born when 9/11 happened. Why do boomers disrespect them? Because boomers disrespect everything. I think that's just sort of the human nature, generational differences and all of that. But yeah, I mean, obviously, active duty military is going to be mostly millennials because it's active duty military people in the millennial age group. I never thought about that before, but yeah, that's a very good point. I don't know. I don't know what any of that means. But yeah, we've been perpetually at war for the last, well, millennial age years. So now I'm really sad. Thanks. Cascadian Guy says, do you think that the process of milking beans and nuts is more humanitarian than how we milk cows? I'm not sure that how we milk cows is not humanitarian. I assume this is coming from the comment I made about not drinking milk because I once visited a dairy farm. And that had nothing to do with how the cows were being treated. I think they were being treated just fine. That had to do with the amount of shit that I saw mixed in with the milk on the floor. That was an image that I can't really get out of my head. But to answer your question, I think that crushing beans and nuts is still more humanitarian because beans and nuts do not have a central nervous system. They cannot feel the crush. On the other hand, maybe cows like the milking process. I mean, I know that it's a natural thing for them to be herded into small pens and have hoses hooked up to their cow parts. Cascadian Guy also asks, what's the closest brown sugar Pop-Tart analog in pipe tobacco form? So if you're asking what pipe tobacco tastes like brown sugar Pop-Tarts, that is an impossible dream. That it can't be done because you're taking one media and trying to replicate it with another media, and you can't be done. However, Peter Stokkeby makes a cinnamon that I had and didn't like, but not really because it's bad tobacco, just because I'm really not an aromatic fan, and becoming less and less so in my old age. However, that's something that tries to replicate one of the flavors of brown sugar Pop-Tarts. But what is the analog? Meaning a tobacco that is like cheap, available at a gas station, really bad for you, and absolutely delicious. I mean, I think Carter Hall you'd have to go with Carter Hall for that because it's available at a gas station and cheap. It's not really, I wouldn't think it's worse for you than any other tobacco, and it's not really that delicious, but 2 out of 4 ain't bad. Ryan S. had some good questions this week. Ask Gribbs, did you really experience a noticeable blood sugar spike, or was it just the adrenaline from knowing that politics reeled you back in? Yeah, no, I really felt, I felt awful after that video, actually. I don't eat, believe it or not, I don't eat sweets that much, and I ate enough. I had to do several takes of the brown sugar Pop-Tart cereal spilling into my gaping maw, and so of course I ate it. I ate like a third of a box of that cereal in the filming of that video, and I felt terrible afterwards. And then an hour later, I ate another third of the box. Also, Ask Gribbs and Ask Gribbs to Ask Derek Tant. So this is a little known feature of the Sunday Antisocial. If you have a question for Derek Tant, you can hashtag it Ask Gribbs to Ask Derek Tant, and I will pick up the red Derek Tant hotline phone on my desk and get you an answer. So if you could either have Dunhill Tobacco or McClellan Tobacco back, these are two major tobacco brands that have disappeared, which of these two would you choose and why? And Derek Tant, I'll let him answer for both of us because he's almost 100% right. This is the easiest question of all time. Give me back McClellan. McClellan seemed to have a line of products that just completely agreed with me. The iconic Frog Morton line is fantastic. Their matured Virginia line had some of my favorite Virginia blends ever. Let's not forget Blue Mountain, Three Oaks Syrian, not to mention 5100 Red Cake was such a solid bulk staple. Dunhill offered some great tobacco. Oh, Derek, you were like 95% right there. But most of their offerings are easily replaceable. Why would you want to replace any of those Dunhill tobaccos? They were terrible. Not really. I did enjoy Nightcap, and actually, every now and then I miss 965. Every now and then, but then I just smoke Old Limey Bastard because it's better anyway. I have no regret, remorse, sadness. I have none of those things about the loss of Dunhill. Dunhill can kiss my ass. I really do miss McClellan, though. Danny Hicks had a great question. You're always railing about the press. You believe they are the enemy of the people. If so, tell us how we would be better off without a free press. And this question is so good that I actually made a separate video about it because I wanted to be able to talk a long time about that one thing and not make the antisocial, 45 minutes long or whatever. So that's coming up in a separate video this week. So let's get to the business here. Let's get to what you've all been talking about this week. Derek Tant asked Gribbs. The Wild Turkey Mash Bill is 75% corn, 13% rye, 12% barley. Does that add up? Yeah, that adds up. Okay. Definitely rye-ish, but a far cry from other rye bombs. Hashtag Ask Gribbs. Please name 5 bourbons in the Wild Turkey 101 price range that you prefer over it. After all, I got to get on your level. By the way, brown sugar Pop-Tart syrup, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes on. He just meanders on about some other crap. Doesn't matter. So, here's what happened. You guys want to know? This is me coming clean and trying to do an apology tour. So here's what happened. I saw on Derek Tant's Instagram page him holding a large bottle of Wild Turkey 101, right? And I noticed that there was like some fancy crap down at the bottom of the bottle. Well, it's been a long time since I've bought a bottle of Wild Turkey, or really any bourbon, because whiskey gives me a damn headache. And it sucks. And I really miss being able to drink lots of different whiskeys and all that, but I got to be careful because it's not worth it anymore. It's been a long time. And I remember 101 having a much different label, packaging, whatever. And so when I saw Derek on his Instagram page holding something with gilded letters on it with this fancy little red banner down here, it said Wild Turkey 101, I thought, just knowing Derek and knowing that he's a show-off, that he had procured some kind of fancy limited edition 101 that had like extra rye in it. And so I left a comment that said, ew, rye is for weirdos. And then it came up in the last Sunday Antisocial, and I mentioned that I like regular 101, and everybody lost their freaking minds, right? What I thought Derek was holding some kind of ride up abomination of 101, right? So I was my mistake, but to explain myself, I didn't realize that I had to go to the liquor store and actually buy a bottle of 101 just to see that it is the same stuff. And while not my favorite bourbon ever, it's a contender for your everyday dram of bourbon. I think it's really good stuff. So this does not have too much rye to me, but at one point I made the mistake. I can't remember, but perhaps this is why I'm sensitive to this issue. There was some bourbon that I liked a lot, and I went and I got a bottle of it, and didn't pay attention, and it was a rye up version, some limited edition rye, blah 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 blah, and it was almost undrinkable. I just it was too much rye, and I don't like the trend in the bourbon industry of putting extra rye. It's like the craft beer and the hops. It's like this and pipe tobacco and latakia. Everybody tries to out rye the other person or the other brand or whatever. Everybody. Excuse me one second. There's something creeping around outside my door. All is well. I know you're worried. It's just the cat. So you see what I'm saying. You see, I was responding to. I didn't need to respond in that way. That's not an apology. I'm just saying. So to answer Derek's question, please name 5 bourbons in the Wild Turkey 101 price range that you prefer over it. That would be tough. Because what's a price range? Can I name Rare Breed, Wild Turkey Rare Breed, which is just it's a few dollars more, but it's still like in that you can get a bottle for $20 or so. In general, my favorite bourbons would be. Let me think about this. Got to name 5. Excuse me. Buffalo Trace would be number 1. Buffalo Trace. Knob Creek, although it's really kind of a love-hate. It's still good bourbon. Still good bourbon, but I feel that it's not as good as it used to be. And it's gone up in price. Okay, so Buffalo Trace, Knob Creek. I would actually put Wild Turkey 101 if we can count Rare Breed. Rare Breed is really good stuff. But for the entry-level offerings of a particular line, 101 or, you know what I'm saying. Either 101 or Rare Breed, whichever counts. Elijah Craig is a very good bar whiskey. It'd be tough to put it on a top whatever list of any bourbons, but it's just such a solid performer at such a reasonable price. Can't leave it off this list. And number 5 is who needs 5? Who needs 5? Can't you be satisfied with 4? Isn't that okay? Probably Jim Beam Black. What am I going to say here? Come on. What Evan Williams? Yeah. Gentleman Jack? It's I guess Maker's Mark, would be better than Jim Beam Black, but not by much, and it's more expensive. So I don't know. The Maker's Mark 46, actually, I don't know how much that is because that bottle I was given to me. I feel like trying to find 5 good bourbons in that price range is a little much to ask. But again, what's a price range? Maybe we could go up to even $50 a bottle here, in which case you've got a million different options. If I was recommending it to someone who I knew liked rye, I would recommend Bullet Bourbon for the 5th one. But yeah, I guess Makers would be the obvious choice, and I don't want to be obvious. That's why I'm choosing Jim Beam Black. Lastly, Walter Saran asks Gribbs, is it bad that the best part of Sunday is watching The Antisocial? Yes, Walter, that is bad. The Antisocial should be the best part of the whole week. Thank you all for watching. Drink your rye, kiddos, and keep the ends out for the ties that bind. Yes, there's the old Wild Turkey 101 print. It's got the little turkey up here on the side, and it's got just a little tiny red. It doesn't have any of this gilded letter crap on there. This is a very nice label. Let's give Wild Turkey a hand. They made a cheap bourbon look like an expensive bourbon, and that's why I was fooled. Also, Derek Chant is a snob.